Welcome back to another episode of the Draw Control Podcast. On today's episode, I am joined by Stanford women's lacrosse recruit who currently plays for a high school team in Randolph and the DEWLAX Club team, Lexi Rodell. Last season, Lexi had 105 goals, 11 assists, 116 points, 30 ground balls, and 185 ground balls, making her a top 50 ranked recruit according to Inside Lacrosse. Welcome to the podcast, Lexi, and how's everything going?
Everything's awesome. Thank you so much for having me on today.
Well, I'm excited to have you on as well. And obviously, you're currently in your senior year of high school. So, how has your senior year been going for you, both on and off the field?
It's been good. It's definitely been busy. All of September, I work as a ocean lifeguard down the shore. That's what I do most of the summer. So I was doing what we call fall crew. So I go down on weekends and I work. So I was doing that, and then I was doing some lacrosse. I was doing a little bit of fall ball. I was at Brogdon Cup, and then just kind of playing some clinics here and there where I can. School's been busy, but I like having a busy schedule, so everything's been good.
That's good to hear. And obviously, you mentioned how you did some lacrosse stuff as well in between school and work. So, what have you been working on the most this summer and fall to prepare for your senior season coming up in a few weeks?
So, I've definitely been trying to get in a lot of shots, a lot of wall ball, just trying to sharpen my skills as much as I can, making sure my fundamentals are as close to perfect as they can be. Thankfully, like a lot of my teammates, for high school love to go to the field and like love to go shoot whenever they can. So I'm super thankful for them because every single time I send a text message out, does anyone want to go to the field? They always are all like, oh my God, yeah, that would be so fun. So I've been just getting to the field as much as possible. I'm doing a winter league now, which is only once a week, but I mean, it's a chance to play some lacrosse. So yeah, that's what I've been doing.
And I saw that you got invited by USA Lacrosse to play in the Brogdon Cup. I just want to ask you what that experience was like for you and what you took away from your time with USA Lacrosse.
Yeah, so I've done the like USA team and like the Brogdon Cup for the past 2 years now. And it is a awesome experience. The girls are fantastic. And it's kind of like a three-part tryout. So you have your regional tryout where you try out like in your like state, and then you have the actual combine, which is like 2 days, 3 days in August, and then you actually have the like actual tournament, the Brogdon Cup. And each year it's been so much fun. The competition has been great. The girls are fantastic, and it's like you all kind of know each other because we've all played against each other all summer. So that was a great experience. The coaching staff is fantastic. 2 years ago, Danielle Spencer, my college coach, actually coached the team. So that was super fun. And it's just a lot of great instruction. And like to hear from people who've played the game for so long, it's awesome. So I loved it.
Yeah, and also it's good to probably get as much experience with other college commits before you go off to Stanford to help
Yeah.
you prepare for that sort of level of competition
Yeah.
before you head off to college. So that's awesome. That's a lot of fun. Do you play other countries or is it just USA, other USA players?
We play Team Ontario and we play the Haudenosaunee, so the Native American nation.
Nice. That sounds like a lot of fun. So
Yeah.
glad you had a good time with that. But I want to sort of start off the podcast, like I always do, just sort of talking about the beginning of your career and sort of working all the way up to where you are today. So obviously you're from New Jersey. So talk about growing up there and how did you start playing lacrosse?
Yeah, so I started playing lacrosse pretty early. I think I started in third grade. But lacrosse where I was still kind of a growing sport at the time. So my grade really, I would say, was the first prominent grade for Randolph lacrosse. So coming up, I would say like 75% of my grade, especially for girls, plays lacrosse. There's a ton of us and we've all kind of grown up together. So I started in about third grade and I was playing rec. And I actually didn't really like it at first. I kind of was like, I don't know. I was always more into gymnastics and like things like that. And then as I started to get older, I realized how much I loved it and loved playing on a team. And especially the girls I was playing with, the girls I grew up with were awesome. So that kind of really pushed me to kind of grow up to love it more. And yeah, that's kind of, I mean, I started then playing club lacrosse in 5th grade. And then I met all my club teammates, and then I really fell in love with it. And then I realized I wanted to go to college for it.
Nice. And growing up, did you watch any lacrosse? And if so, who was some of your favorite players and teams that you admired the most?
Yeah, 100%. When I was growing up, I was a huge Penn State fan. My entire family pretty much went to Penn State. So I grew up going to a bunch of their games, and I would say Madison Carter was one of my favorites. She's coaching at Clemson now. Just her ability to shoot the ball, what she could do on draw, like I thought it was all fantastic. I loved watching her play. She was super fun.
Yeah, it must have been cool. Did you get to go to Gillette Stadium to see their Final Four appearance a few years ago?
I actually did not get to go. I actually have never been to campus. Every single time they've played like a team nearby, I've always gone, but I've always wanted to visit the campus. I just never have gotten up there yet.
All right, all right. Well, maybe Stanford plays them one day, and that'll be your first time getting the chance to do that. It will be a little bit weird though, because you're hoping they lose. But you know,
Yeah.
it's crazy how times change like that. So now you currently play for the DEWLAX Club team. So my first question to you about that is, how'd you get the opportunity to play for that team, especially since you said you started playing club lacrosse when you were in 5th grade?
Yeah, so I was kind of looking to start playing lacrosse at the next level, and one of my closest friends, her name's Katie, was playing, and actually a few of my friends who played for Randolph were playing for DEWLAX at the time. So I went to a supplemental tryout, and then I tried out, and I made one of the teams, and then I wasn't on the team with the team of girls. I ended up like playing with my recruiting summer and stuff like that. I was on a different team. And then I really loved the coaching staff. I thought they were fantastic. I loved like the practices and like I loved the competition. So I stayed with them all until, I mean, obviously all the way until my senior year. But we call it like North and West. So I was on the West team because that's where I sort of live in New Jersey. And then I ended up playing for the Northern team, which is the girls who I was with kind of all throughout high school. And I just love them so much. They're a fantastic group of girls. We all kind of push each other. We're super competitive. They're all committed to great schools. So yeah, that was kind of how I got into club lacrosse. It was just kind of a friend through a friend thing.
Now, what has been some of your best memories with DEWLAX when you look back on it now?
Definitely just getting through summer lacrosse together. Summer lacrosse is obviously a super fun time. It's just like a bunch of great competition. You're all like on some random grass fields, and it's like it's just a I mean, you spend a lot of time with them, so you kind of get to all really know each other super well. And definitely going to like team dinners, and like for instance when we were in Dallas, Texas, we went axe throwing as like our like little activity after dinner. So it's like you just do a bunch of like random stuff together. You travel to different states, so you just spend a lot of time with them, and like just a great group of girls.
That axe throwing stuff looks a lot harder than it might seem.
It actually is. I was really surprised at how hard it was, but once you get the hang of it, you're good. But yeah, it was tough.
Who would you say you were the best axe thrower on the team, or was there someone else?
So we actually had a competition, and I came in third, I think.
Not
So
bad.
not the best. Tegan Quinn, she's going to Drexel. She was the one who won. But yeah, we got pretty competitive with it, but I wasn't good enough.
Third isn't too bad though. It's better than being in last place. So
True.
I'll be proud of that, especially if that's my first time doing it. So
Yeah.
now, before this season, you had to deal with a lot of challenges due to the pandemic, with things being delayed and not playing games. So my question is, how has that challenge made you a better lacrosse player and sort of affected your lacrosse development? Because I know for the other classes ahead of you, it was a much bigger, I guess, impact just because it was during their recruiting time. But I'm curious for your class of 24, if that sort of has been an effect, something that's affected you guys at all, sort of with your development and stuff, sort of like be before you guys got to high school, sort of having to deal with that challenge.
Yeah. So COVID hit when I was in my 8th grade year. So it would have been my 8th grade spring of playing lacrosse. And it was definitely a weird start because it was like literally right March, right when we were supposed to have our first games and stuff like that. And I think honestly, being home all the time, I had nothing to do. And I kind of just started going, and so my dad played lacrosse, right? He played at UMass. So we would always go to the field and he would play defense on me. And I think we just started doing that a lot more because we had nothing more to do. So I think that just being able to play lacrosse so much more, I was able to kind of start to hone in on like different skills that I like wanted to hit to become a better lacrosse player.
Now let's talk about your time in high school so far. So, for Stanford lacrosse fans that have never seen you play before, just describe your game to them and what can fans, I guess, expect when you step on campus in August.
Yeah, so what my head coach likes to describe me as is a downhill dodger. A lot of my game is kind of from the top of the eight. I'm an attacker, so I like to score. I definitely do like a lot of cutting in the eight. But yeah, I would say mainly just sort of like a downhill dodger.
And what do you hope to accomplish this year with your final season with Randolph?
So what I hope to accomplish is right now I am the all-time leading goal scorer for Randolph, but I would like to become the all-time leading point scorer for Randolph. So I forget what the record is. I'm not too far off from it, but I definitely want to do points like overall.
Yeah. Well, I saw that you had over 100 points last season, so if you continue to do that, it's definitely going to happen at some point. So I wish you best of luck with that. But sort of another question I had for you is, what do you think's been sort of the biggest improvement you've made to your game since your freshman year? Because obviously, looking at your stats, it seems like you've gotten better throughout each season, which is important to see, especially for someone like yourself that's going into college.
Thank you so much. So I would say the thing I've probably most improved on was definitely my shooting. Um, Kind of going from because we had that weird gap in eighth grade where it was like we weren't, it's not that we didn't have a freshman year. My freshman year was affected by COVID, but I was still able to play. Going from kind of playing almost seventh grade lacrosse to high school lacrosse was definitely a change. So I kind of had to, you have to switch up your play completely, learning how to play with a team versus it's like the three best girl in seventh grade, it's like three best girls in the field get the ball and then kind of just run down. Going to high school, it's a lot more of like a team dynamic. So definitely adjusting to kind of having a lot more two-role game with like the players on the field. So I would say my two-role game's probably gotten a lot better, and I would say my shooting because goalies get better, everyone, and especially through club too, everyone gets better, everyone's bigger, everyone's faster, so you kind of have to switch up your techniques.
And how do you think your club and high school lacrosse experiences helped prepared you for college lacrosse with Stanford?
Oh, I mean, especially with club lacrosse, the competition is fantastic. I mean, we were during the summer we were playing teams like Monster, Skywalkers, M&D all the time, and I mean all those girls are going to top 20 schools. So when you're playing girls like that all the time, like every weekend, you see them at every recruiting event, you see them at every camp. It just makes your skill, I mean, obviously, it makes your skills a lot better. And then you also know that you're going to see those girls in college. So it's like kind of like a little bit of a preview to what you're going to be playing against.
Oh, for sure. Especially if you're going up against some other Stanford commits as well. That must be super cool for yourself to do that.
Yeah.
So talk about your recruiting process now, since this is a college lacrosse podcast after all. So talk about your recruiting process with Stanford and what made you want to go there versus other schools you might have looked at.
Yeah. So originally, Stanford actually wasn't on my radar. And I was definitely looking more East Coast. I didn't know that I was going to go that far. But so then, September 1st, I had my whole recruiting summer. It was super long. It's a lot of lacrosse. And then September 1st came and I got a call from Stanford and I was sitting with and they offered me a visit and I was sitting with my grandma and she's like, I really think you should go and just look. And I was like, okay, like, sounds good. But again, I was still really scared kind of going that far. I mean, it is in California, so it's like different from everything I've kind of grown up around. So I went out to visit and I literally stepped on campus. It was my first visit. And I stepped on campus and I turned to my parents and I was like, this is where I'm going to college. And they're like, you can't decide. They're like, you can't decide that. Like, you just stepped on. And I was like, this is where I'm going to college. And they were like, okay, like, let's just slow down. And I was like, I don't even care. Like, this is where I'm going. So then I took a few other visits and then I revisited or like I was in contact with Danielle the whole time. And then I think it was September 18th, I called her and I was like, I'm in. I want to commit to Stanford. But it was definitely a super long process. And it's very stressful because you never know what you're going to get and you want to wish for the best but prepare for the worst. So it's just a very like mentally stressful time, especially with high school work, and like junior year is kind of notoriously tough on work. So I think it was super tough because I was having such a huge workload while worrying about going on these visits and committing to college at the same time.
Absolutely. And obviously, you weren't the only top recruit to commit to Stanford. There's been some other ones as well. So my question is, have you been watching, I guess, any Stanford lacrosse in the past year? And have you had the chance to meet any of your future teammates, whether they're other commits or players that are currently on the team now?
Yeah, so I've actually met the entire 23 class and I've played with them. So we do recruiting event or not recruiting events, Stanford events in the summer where it's like we'll go to like Triple H committed event. Like that's one of them, and then the 23s and the 24s will play together. So I've played with the 23s multiple times and I love every single one of them. And it's like and the 24s too. We have a very good like those two recruiting classes along with our 25s are all super like everyone's super good. And everyone's super nice and fun. And we just actually met all the 25s in early December when we were at Stanford camp, and they're all awesome. I'm so thankful to be with such a good group of girls. They're all super talented and we all get along really well and we actually all play together really well. So it's exciting to watch.
That's awesome. Do you meet any of the older players, like some of the seniors and juniors on your team, or is it only just the other commits from the grade above and below you?
Yeah, so we went and watched a few games at we were at UPenn. It was like a little play day. It was UPenn, Stanford, and Rutgers. And we met like theirs was like a little tailgate area, so we met a bunch of the older players, like we said hi. And on our visit, there was a whole panel with them. Like they sat down and they talked to the recruits and were like, this is what we love. Like, this is about like all your classes and stuff like that. So I've met a bunch of the older players and they're all awesome.
That's awesome. And obviously, the big thing with Stanford is right now they're in the Pac-12, but obviously once you get there, they're going to be in the ACC, which I'm
Mhm.
I'm not sure if you expected that to happen when you were getting recruited, obviously.
Yeah.
But from your perspective, what makes the ACC different from other colleges or conferences in college lacrosse? And how excited are you to play some of the top teams in the nation, like Boston College, Syracuse, just to name a few? That must be really exciting when you heard that announcement, even though it's more of a football decision.
Yeah. So every girl in going through the recruiting process is always looking ACC. It is the top conference. It is filled with such good competition. And when I heard, I definitely was not expecting it. I thought Stanford was going to stay Pac-12. I knew that the Pac-12 was having some issues, but I didn't think that we were going to fully move to the ACC. And then when we did, we were talking in like all like the group chats with like the 23s and the 25s, and everyone was super super excited. I think moving into this is going to be awesome for Stanford, especially our lacrosse team, because I think we can show off the talent that we have coming in. And just play against, I mean, like you're playing against North Carolina, you're playing against Syracuse, you're playing against Boston College, you're playing against the top teams in women's lacrosse. So I think you really get a sense of like being on the big stage and like finally and like also because like you're it's also fun because you're seeing a ton of the girls that like you grew up playing with, like a bunch of the girls that like for instance the Brogdon Cup, like there's a girl going to Syracuse, there's a girl going to UNC, and you get to see those people again like on the lacrosse field at the next level.
Now, what do you think is going to be the biggest adjustment you have to make to college lacrosse? Because obviously, I think the thing is that a lot of players, when they get to college lacrosse, every one of their team was the best player in high school and one of the top players in their club team. But now everyone is on pretty much in the same boat as you are. So I'm curious when you've thought about the upcoming next season, what like you think is going to be like the biggest adjustment you're going to have to make?
Yes, so you kind of said it perfectly. Everyone's bigger, everyone's faster, everyone's good. So I think the biggest adjustment is learning your role on the team versus in high school. I feel like it's very much whoever's the best player is the best player, and they do everything on the field. And I think moving into that college role, I think it's more trying to figure out where you fit on the team with like all the different puzzle pieces of players and kind of really honing in that skill to make sure you're capitalizing all your playing time on the field.
I do want to ask you this question because I sort of just thought about it on my mind, but you're one, obviously IL came out with their rankings. You're a top 50 ranked recruit. How do you handle the pressure of being one of the highly ranked recruits in the country? Because you know you obviously have a target on your back no matter who you face. And I'm just curious how you sort of handle the pressure and sort of try to keep yourself, I guess, in the moment and trying to being the best player you can, but also trying to help your teammates out as well.
Yeah, I try to not think about it as much as possible. I think honestly, like rankings are rankings, regardless of where I am. Like it's awesome. But I also think that the more I think about it, the more stressed out I get. And I know for a fact that I play better when I'm kind of just like having fun and not really worried about anything. So I honestly just try to like look at it. Okay, that's awesome. And then kind of like move on. And it's like, how can I make myself better? Um, on the field without trying to like I try not to think about it as me having a target on my back, but just kind of like playing to have fun. Like I play the game because I love the game, not because I'm trying to be like ranked this high on a list, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So um I just don't think about it.
What are you most excited about when you think about playing for Stanford next season?
Oh my God. I could go on about this for hours. I, first of all, I love the girls. I think the talent going in is awesome. I mean, I've said this probably 1,000 times already, but the talent going in is fantastic. I love the team, and especially I love the coaching staff. I think Danielle Spencer is building something really special out there, and I think she's really helping to bring kind of the East Coast hearth of lacrosse kind of over to the west, and I think she's trying to build something really special out there, and I think us joining like Stanford joining the ACC is a fantastic step towards that.
Now, what are your team and individual goals and expectations with Stanford next season? I assume it's to win a national championship. I feel like that's definitely possible with what Danielle is doing over there. But any other goals that I guess that fans might not be aware of that you sort of thought about?
Yeah, well, winning a national championship is definitely one. And I think kind of really building a formidable name for ourselves. I think because Stanford's on the West Coast, we're still building a reputation. Now joining the ACC, I think that's going to be like a huge step, like really getting our name out there and like kind of showing people, and especially the East Coast, like we can play too. You know what I mean? Like like obviously everyone's gonna be good and it's gonna be like a lot of competition. But I think really just making a huge name for ourselves as a like athletic school as well as an academic school.
So let's transition now to a segment I like to call the non-lacrosse segment, where I ask you some non-lacrosse questions to hopefully get to know you a little bit more off the field. So my first question to you is, what music do you like to listen to?
Oh, I am very much, my friends like to call it dad rock. I like to listen to like Led Zeppelin and like stuff like that. A lot of yacht rock, like kind of like beach music. But lately I've been into like house music, like the stuff that everyone's kind of been playing. So I don't know, I kind of listen to everything, but definitely like I would say classic rock.
Nice, nice. Any like I like classic rock, but I'm not too into the heavy metal stuff. More
Yeah.
like the Eagles, the
Yeah, yeah,
Beatles,
yeah.
Journey. I've been into John Denver lately as well. I don't know if he's considered rock and roll, but definitely
I
sort
would
of. I'll consider him yacht rock maybe if
yeah, I would say yacht
someone.
rock.
Yeah. Now this is one of the only lacrosse questions you're gonna get in the non-lacrosse segment, but it's a pretty interesting one. What's your most embarrassing lacrosse moment?
Oh, I looked over this with my mom earlier. I in one of my games, I got hit with a shot and like a stick at the same time in my nose, and I had the worst bloody nose of all time. It was all over my uniform, it was all over everything. And that game, we were having it broadcasted. So it was like there was an announcer and there it was like one of our like state games or something like that. And when I walked off the field, I was taking, and there was like a lot of people watching the live stream. And I took a picture of my face to like see how bad it was. And when I was rewatching the recording of the video later that day, the announcer was like, "Oh, it looks like Rodell's fine. She's taking a selfie of herself on the sideline, so I guess she'll be back in soon enough." And I was just kind of like, "Ooh, like that was not supposed to be seen." But yeah, the announcer called me out for taking a selfie on the
Yeah.
sideline.
That's tough. I can
Yeah,
relate to it though, because one time in class I had a bloody nose when we were doing like a reading. And
yeah,
this is like right after the teacher like yelled at the entire class for like not behaving well. And
yeah,
then blood just going all over this book. And then when I was going down to the nurse's office, like it was after a lunch period, so everyone could see me and it looked like I just got beat up in a fight, even though I just
yeah,
had a bloody nose. So I relate to that a little bit, even though it's a
yeah. It's
different
tough,
circumstance.
tough life.
Now, who is the funniest teammate you have?
Oh my God. Okay, I'm gonna go Randolph and Stanford. If I'm saying Randolph Lacrosse, I'm gonna go Taylor Santoro. She is an absolute character. She's so funny. And then if I'm going Stanford, I would say Amanda Lawson.
Hmm.
She's hilarious. I love her. We have a very similar sense of humor too. So every single like joke she makes is like stuff that I find funny. So I think she's hilarious.
What's the most interesting thing you've read or seen this week?
Oh, that's a really good question. What did I see this week?
I can give you my
Um,
answer if you need some time to think about it.
yeah, I would give your answer. I need a little inspiration.
Yeah. Well, obviously, Bill Belichick leaving the Patriots was pretty crazy to see, especially since he's been there for 24 years. And it just, I was like, man, this guy's been coaching the Patriots
Yeah,
longer than I've been alive. Like, that's just crazy to think about. But honestly, the most interesting thing I saw was I don't know if you follow hockey, but there's this guy named Cutter Gauthier who was like a top 10 pick for the
yeah,
Flyers. And he just decided he doesn't want to play with them anymore and like basically requested a trade. And now it's like this whole drama going on with that.
yeah,
And I think that's been pretty interesting to sort of read about.
yeah. Okay, I'm gonna piggyback off of you with football, and I'm gonna say Nick Saban retiring
Oh,
from
okay, that was a good one. That was
Alabama.
surprising. I did not expect that.
I didn't expect that either. I saw the Instagram post and I was like, what? Like, I feel like he's been there forever. How can he leave now?
Yeah.
Definitely that.
Oh, for sure. I my favorite Nick Saban video is the one where he's like yelling at his team to and it was like before a national championship game, and
Yeah,
he's just like, "You gotta take what's yours," you know. They're trying
yeah,
to talk about respect. Well, they don't respect. It was
yeah,
awesome. I didn't expect that one though, because Bill Belichick, like, obviously the Patriots haven't been doing that well in the last couple of years,
yeah.
so it's sort of expected. But Nick Saban just came out of nowhere with that.
Yeah,
So
Nick Saban came out of nowhere, so I'm excited to see who the new head coach is going to be. I mean, I'm assuming they're going to have to hire somebody who's fantastic, but just Nick Saban's like the way he recruits, like I don't know how Alabama's going to be able to copy that.
yeah, I feel like if they get a good coach, they'll figure it out. I'm not too worried
Yeah.
about Alabama personally with their football.
Yeah.
They'll figure it out. So, and I guess the last non-lacrosse question I have for you is if you could have lunch with anyone in the world, who would it be and why?
Ooh, okay. Honestly, Dave Grohl.
Nice.
He's just like every single video. Well, first of all, obviously like Nirvana, Foo Fighters, that thing. But every single time I see a video of him when he's like it's not music related, I just think he's hilarious. He looks like such a nice guy. And like like every video I see on like Instagram or like TikTok, it's just like him just like doing whatever he wants, saying whatever he wants. So probably him.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I would say for me, I guess rule off the music theme, Paul McCartney. I think he's a legend, and it'll be cool
Yeah.
to hear some Beatles stories from him. And
Yeah.
sort of like it's crazy to think about like you listen to some of these songs, it's like so amazing. It's like it's crazy that a human being like sat down and like thought
And
of
like
that and
created
wrote
it.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I could never do something like
I
that. Like
know.
it's cool to think about. So I
Yeah.
love like looking up like how songs were made. I go down that rabbit hole too much
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah. Totally agree.
Well, let's get back to some lacrosse questions now before we end this interview. First one is, what advice would you give to younger players who are trying to pursue a career in college lacrosse like yourself?
Um, Definitely stay consistent. I mean, I feel like so many people have such good potential for the things that they can do and the places that they can go. But I think some people, the moment that, there's kind of a bump in the road, I think some people get distracted or they get discouraged. And I think staying consistent with the work that you're doing and believing that what you're doing is worth it is the most important thing to get you to the next level.
Now, what should be done to help grow women's lacrosse from your perspective?
Oh, better broadcasting. I think, like, for instance, like every single time there's a new NFL game on, you always know who's playing, who's whatever. Like there's the NFL Red Zone where you get to like switch between games. I think women's lacrosse needs to be broadcasted on all different different channels, and I think kind of maybe taking it international. I mean, I know Europe has started to um like build lacrosse teams of their own, like Ireland and stuff like that, but I think more countries need to get teams, and yeah, better social media and broadcasting.
Yeah, for sure. I think the Olympics adding lacrosse in 2028 is gonna
Oh
go
yeah.
with that. So excited to see that happen. And then yeah,
Yeah.
obviously broadcast can always improve and maybe not call out players for having bloody noses because you probably don't know what's going on as well.
I
So
know. They didn't understand. They didn't
yeah.
know what was happening.
So one more question for you, Lexi, before we let you go is do you have any shout outs you want to give to any of your family members, friends, teammates, future teammates? And who should we have on the podcast next? Because we normally don't have recruits on here, but I'm excited that you're one
Yeah.
of the first ones to come on the podcast. So we'd definitely love to have more.
Yeah, this is super fun. I would say, I mean, obviously, so much thanks to my family. I mean, they have spent hours driving me to every lacrosse tournament. My dad has spent hours playing lacrosse with me outside. Kind of just like supporting me in every step that I've taken and getting me to the point where I am now, where then now they get to send me off to college. But I mean, they've been with me every single step of the way, and I could not ask for more supportive parents. My teammates constantly pushing me in practice, constantly like every single time I like don't want to go to the field, they're like, oh, like come on. So like they're always like um making sure I'm like keeping my skills sharp. There's always competition in practice. My coaches, I mean, every single one I've had for USA, DEWLAX, Team New Jersey, now Stanford with Danielle, all the instruction that they've given me to make me a better player on and off the field. Um, I mean, I couldn't give enough thanks to, I mean, pretty much every person in my life has been influential in where I am right now in my career. And I would say shout out wise, I would go Martha Oki or Amanda Lawson for who to have on for like recruits next.
Nice. We'll definitely reach out and see
Yeah.
what they have to say. But Lexi, I just want to say thank you so much for taking time out of your day and coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it, and I wish you all the best. And I can't wait to see you play with Stanford very soon. That's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me. This was fantastic.